Hi, guys. Welcome to Scorpio Rising. I'm Heidi Kemper, psychic medium.
I'm Psychic Kathy Metry, and welcome to Scorpio Rising.
Kathy, I am so excited today to be here and to get started on our podcast, Scorpio Rising. We have so much to share, so many inspirational stories, so many wonderful guests. And I think today is just about introducing people to who we are and what our vision is for this podcast.
I am so excited, and being our first podcast, I know that people are going to absolutely love some of our subject matters, and I can't wait to start.
So, Kathy, I want to talk about how you work. First, I just want to explain to the audience kind of how I work. So, I am a psychic, which means I can tap into your past, present, and future. I can access your Akashic records, but I'm also a psychic medium, which means I'm able to connect with those who have passed, our loved ones in spirit, and your spirit guides, guardian angels. So, when I show up in the world, my intuition is always there. My psychicness is always there, but the mediumship comes in when I open myself up. So when I meet with clients, I set the intention and I open my mediumship up then and there. As you know, Kathy, I'm a nurse by trade, so I had to learn how to set those boundaries. Otherwise, spirit would be coming in all the time. So that's kind of how I work. I've really stepped into my gift the last 10 years and starting on my next incarnation as a psychic medium. And I would love to hear how you work and let's share that with the audience.
Thanks, Heidi. So, I am a natural born psychic. I have been doing readings past, present, and future since childhood. And I do have to just have a little caveat here. While I've had over the last 40 years a lot of private clients, I struggled being Catholic with really coming out authentically as a psychic and having all of these private readings. I finally decided in the last 5 years to really work with people and use my gift to serve and help empower people, have a look at what they have to look forward to, how they can tap into their inner strength and their own gifts to get ahead in life and not just get by. I see the past, I see the present, I see the future. As far as mediumship, it's very random. But I have lived in the spirit world forever, an alternative universe, as I could say, the way that I look and see and hear and feel. I'm also an empath, but I know this year more than any, it has been unbelievable the amount of growth and also working with you and the amount of clients that have just, they're through the moon with a lot of the things that we're doing and helping them with, and it feels great. And it's a golden path for using your gifts.
Thanks for sharing that. And I have to kind of piggyback on what you said, being a child psychic. It was definitely a gift I was born with, but was told at a very young age, you know, that's your imagination, or that's a story, or, my parents would say, are you listening in on our conversation? Are you being nosy? How do you know that? And a lot of that is kind of what quieted it down. When I really realized something, I had some sort of a gift, was in my teens. And when I was 19, my brother passed in a car accident, as you know. And when he passed, he started to come to me in dreams. And the first year after he passed is when he would give me messages to give to my loved ones. So looking back on my life is when I realized, it's always been there, but it really started to show up in my teens after my brother passed. And then the last 10 years, really stepping into my authentic self and sharing that gift with the world. And so just following that intuition, following that guidance from spirit, asking spirit, show me the next step, show me the next step. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, when I mentioned, and you brought something up, as a child, I would have so many dreams. I would tell my dad, he would say, "How would you know this?" And I don't know, Dad. Don't tell anyone. They're going to think, they're going to think you're a little weird. You don't want to share those things. And no matter what, and I just couldn't help it. And when I turned 21, I mean, I was always reading for my friends in school, in college. And when I turned 21, I moved to Canada. And all of a sudden, somebody said, "Oh, there's a psychic fair." I said, "A psychic fair? Wow, I want to go." And all of a sudden, I realized there's this entire world out here where people are like me. And it was incredible. It was just incredible. All of the tools that I could use to enhance my gift, learn more about it. So my journey has been abundant. And I'm very grateful for my gift. And I'm grateful to use it to help others.
So I recall when having the same feeling, that aha moment of, oh, there's other people like me, when I back in 2013 took the intuitive practitioner certification, my teacher, Lori Lipton. I remember the first day getting there and registering. I walked in this room and there's all these people checking in. And we walked into this big conference room and there were chairs all around and we all sat down. And I remember just looking around going, oh my God, alone. There's other people like me. I'm not a weirdo. This is so exciting. And I just remember that moment of, okay, I'm not that I am different, but I embrace it. I embrace that difference. And it just opened up a whole new world for me.
I
So
I definitely relate to what you're saying of not feeling alone. What I would love for you to tell is the story about when you were a little girl and how on the playground you would do
Oh,
reading for your friends and
yes.
what your little
The little mushroom
office.
space.
Yeah. So tell that story. I love that story.
So in sixth grade, during recess, there was this a big elm tree, and when you went down, as it moved down to the bottom, it kind of went out like a mushroom. So you could go out and have like this little elm tree mushroom cave or something, if you want to call it. And I used to bring clients into my little area underneath the elm
Client,
tree. Yeah,
client.
I mean, I'm going to call them clients, like customers, friends, and I would read their fortunes. And quite frankly, I don't even know why or how I was doing it, and why I just decided to. And then all of a sudden, I got in trouble, and said it was too personal, the things that I was saying to people, and that I had to stop.
So when you say you got in trouble, you got called in the principal's office, or how did that go?
Yes.
How'd that go down?
So my teacher, and her name was Mrs. Stesney, she was very old, and she said, "I want to talk to you about something you're doing on the playground, and we're going to go down to the principal's office at some point today." And I mean, the whole day I was just like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" And so I went down to the principal's office, and they said it wasn't appropriate, and that it was too personal, and that it's not right that I should be talking about the personal lives of, other students. And that was it. And I was so upset. I'm like, I could not understand why. I
Right.
just couldn't understand why.
It's like I'm this little girl just playing with my friends, just hanging out, being myself. And here you are telling me I'm doing something wrong, which at the time you didn't even really know what you were doing. Right. But that is just an example of how on this earth plane, how society back when we were growing up in the 70s, 60s, and 70s, 80s, not to age ourselves, but it was not normal. Now I feel like it's more normalized. Our kids are being born remembering who they are, and we're encouraging that. And so I do feel like as a collective, we're stepping into that new vibration. We're stepping into accepting that, encouraging that. And intuition is really something that our kids are born with and they keep and they remember who they are. So I think we have, I think we have hope for the future. And now that we're stepping into this new reality, now that the 3D and the 5D are accessible to us on the earth plane, we're just going to continue to see the vibration elevate and people showing up in that way more and more. So I have to say, it's very empowering to live in this time, to be accepted for who we are, to show up for who we are, be authentic and not be ashamed of it. Just the other day, I was at work. As you know, I work as a nurse. And in my everyday work as a nurse, I think all nurses, anybody who works in the medical field, they have that intuitive gift. They can look at a patient, know when something's going wrong, know something isn't right. Could be the coloring of the patient, very subtle things. It's natural to be intuitive at work. But now my coworkers know who I am. There was an article in the local paper back in the fall, and one of my coworkers found it and posted it on the door of the break room. And 21 years ago, when I first became a nurse, I would have never wanted something like that posted on the break room door. But it was posted on the break room door. Everyone's like, "You're a psychic medium? That's so cool. Tell me more about it." Very accepting. I would say 95% of the people, very complimentary, wanted to learn more about it. And so to be in the workplace, in the 3D world, working in a hospital, working with doctors and nurses, they all know who I am and I'm accepted for who I am and I show up authentically. I'm sure there's a couple of people that think, oh, she's a weirdo or she's whatever. And that's fine. Everybody has their right and their opinion, but I have to say how nice it is to just really show up in the world as a 48-year-old woman and say, this is who I am, take me or leave me, and really just owning who I am and standing in my power. And I think the more we stand in our power and the more authentic we are, we're that much closer to spirit, to God, and we're that much more able to be a clear channel. What do you think? Do you agree?
Absolutely. I will say, at a very young age, at 22, I was an entrepreneur. And for 35 years, I owned an advertising and marketing agency. And I started a concept that was pioneering something that it was a niche in the advertising world. And it really shot up. We got so much publicity and it was just wonderful. But everybody knew in my business that I was intuitive. A couple of I would read cards for some of the girls that worked for me. But most important, after seeing, at one point we had 60 reps. Every single one of those people that came in, and I remember people saying to me, oh my gosh, you should see the way she looks. Like, she's a no. Should I even bother giving her an application? I'd be like, really? You're going to cherry pick because of what someone looks like in the flesh? I don't think so. Bring her back. And where I would use all of my psychic abilities, I could see every single thing that they came from, where they didn't believe in themselves, where they needed to be empowered, what their strengths were, and where we could, get to where they needed to go. I felt everything. And that was really, now you think about this. I ran my advertising with reps that went business to business cold calls. And my turnover was non-existent for that kind of business. But the reason is that people were growing. And spiritually, we need to grow. And this is and that was that turning point that's where I felt blessed. That is the only thing that kept my business moving forward, is using those gifts to help people identify their futures, identify their strengths, identify and everything, their weaknesses. Everybody needs a weakness to have a strength. And it was beautiful. And I felt like at one point, I have so many stories, but at one point I just felt like I didn't even care about the money. We were just hand over fist doing phenomenal, and it was unbelievable. But I just knew, and I knew my calling was to serve and to help people, and the rest would come
I
over. Yeah. So you get that.
I
And
do. As a nurse manager, I've been a nurse manager. I just switched back to staff nursing so I could focus on my business, growing my business as a psychic medium back in June, made that switch. But as a nurse manager for almost 8 years, I worked in the same way. I would interview someone, I could tell within, well, really, honestly, to be honest, I would look at their resume, their application, and I would even know before I interviewed them if I even wanted to interview them. So there was a lot of people that just didn't even make it to the interview process because I just intuitively could pick it up on the resume kind of thing. But I would bring them in. I would know within 5 minutes if this was going to work or not. But with that gift, I was able to create wonderful working teams. I had a department of 12. I was over 50 people in multiple different departments by the time the job progressed, and they kept putting more and more on my plate. But that was a little niche that I was very good at, was being able to identify people's strengths, encourage those strengths to have them show up in their best way, and create wonderful working teams, and really empowering people, seeing where their weaknesses were, or maybe just say where their opportunities are. I like that word better than weakness, but see where the opportunities were for them to improve, things that they could work on to make them that much better of a teammate, as a clinician. But really, if you were able to empower people, that was my biggest accomplishment, I think, was really reading people, making that connection with my employees, knowing when they were having a bad day, calling them in the office before they had the meltdown, really seeing it, sensing it. I've always been able to walk in a room and read the room. And I know you're the same way. And so walk in the room, read the room, see the one person that their energy is down or whatever, call them in my office. Hey, I noticed you seem down today. What's going on? Giving them that opportunity to talk, and almost alchemizing that vibe and sending them back out, and we'd be able to have a great day. As more things got put on my plate, I wasn't able to spend that kind of time with my employees. And that's when the job became not satisfying to me anymore, because I wasn't able to pour into my people and keep the teams going in that aspect. Because, as you know, my hospital got bought out by a bigger corporation. The bigger you get, the less personal. People just become a number. But I identify with what you're saying, that using your intuition and using that gift to be able to read people and empower them, that is one of the best things that I was able to do when I worked in that aspect.
I found that a lot of people too, and I think we've had this talk, people are very confused. They want clarity. Everybody gets to that point at some time in their life, whether it's a personal issue, a business issue, an environmental issue. And I feel like the gift, even being an empath, when you can feel somebody else's pain or confusion, you can really, for me at least, I can really see clearer where they need to get back on track and what they have to look forward to. Because people get hopeless, people get insecure, people get confused. And I try to really work with, and where I really see the spirit and the spirit world is, I see the spirit of negativity. I can see the spiritual attacks on people. I can see where it's hitting them, where it's coming from. And from there, when people feel truth, I call it like their soul burns.
Mm-hmm.
And they cry and they release.
Yeah.
because it just clicked for them. And so that again is a part of this that, and I'll tell you, it takes a lot out of you, in a good way. I mean, it's like a great workout, but you're exhausted after. And that's when I know I've served and I've done a great job with using my gifts.
I agree. I feel in the work that we do, when someone makes an appointment to come for a reading, that there is something in their soul, something in their being that they're looking for an answer to, whether it's a connection with someone who's passed for me as a medium, or it's something regarding their personal life, their love life, their work, and they come for guidance. And I feel like it's a real honor to be able to serve in that way and to show up for people in that way.
Wow. I have a lot of clients that come in and they're like, is this wrong? Is this evil? Is this like witchcraft? Is it? And I'm actually happy that those questions are out there,
Yeah.
because I want to change the perception of what being intuitive, what being psychic really is. And it is a gift. And at a certain point, when I talked about a little bit about coming out, right? And you've inspired me with that, because while I mean, both of us had all these private clients for years, you came out authentically, which is your tagline, which I love, and as a psychic. And that's inspiring to so many people. But going back to the Christian and religious aspect and Leviticus and all of these rules in the Bible, I have to say it's very hypocritical. I mean, here we have dream interpreters, saints, doing amazing miracle work and mysticism, and they're recognized by other human beings. And it finally occurred to me, wait a minute. God created man and women equal in his image and likeness. And every one of us have special gifts. A doctor has a gift to heal in the physical manner, and he manifests healing physically, right? So why wouldn't God give me this gift? And who would judge it? And that's where I have, and where it's so important, because part of empowering people is to get rid of the judgment.
Totally.
And that's exactly what we do.
Now, I personally, very rarely have I come across a skeptic, like who sets up an appointment. I will have like a husband and wife, or the husband wants to come and the wife's skeptical. I actually had this couple. It was a beautiful couple, two women come in, and it was really very sweet. I had a woman reach out and she said, "Hi, Heidi, my friend, our mutual friend so-and-so referred me to you and told me what a wonderful gift you have. And I would love to set up an appointment. How does that work?" And I explained to her, and she said, "I want to bring my wife, but I don't want her to know because she's very skeptical. So I'm going to surprise her. In the meantime, like, how does this work? Do I pay for a group, whatever?" So anytime it's more than one person, it's considered a group reading. So we set it up and they came to the office, and it was so cute because they walk in and the wife was like, "Okay, so are you a marriage counselor? Like, what kind of appointment is this?" And because we sat down in the office and she's like, "Okay, guess, like, what do you think we're going to talk about today?" She's like, "I don't know. Are we in a counseling session? What is this?" And I said, "Well, it's kind of counseling, whatever." So I started explaining who I am and what I do. And she just was like, "Oh my gosh." And she's like, I'm like, "You need to understand the degree your wife went to make sure that she did not give me any information. I didn't know her name. I only knew the woman's name that made the appointment." I said, "She went out of her way to make sure that I went into this blind. I know nothing about either one of you. This is a clear reading. She really wanted to give this to you. Are you open to it?" Gave her that opportunity. She's like, "Well, yeah, of course." So she's like, well, I'm just glad it's not marriage counseling. 'Cause she was afraid it was like a marriage counseling appointment or she's going to like drop some bomb on her or whatever. So she was excited. And I went in and I started, connecting her with her father who had passed, and they had had a tumultuous relationship. And, just the tears that were released, the connection, the healing, that manifestation of all of that, it was just such a beautiful thing to be a part of. And so when it comes to skeptics, there are a lot of skeptics out there, but I would have to say 90% of the time they aren't skeptical. They, know what they're coming in for. They know what they're setting up for. Now, when I do my work, I don't use cards. I really just, set the intention, and then everything is channeled through me. I think when I do events, I use my cards, and I do think that there is a misconception about the use of tools, the tools of tarot, the tools of, any kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Divination, tools of divination.
Yeah.
There is some, I think when you have tarot or cards or whatever, it does create kind of like is this okay? But I feel like when I go and I do like an event, so if I'll do a psychic fair or I did a paracon, last fall, when I do those kinds of events, I use cards because I'm totally ADD, and it just kind of helps me center my energy on that person sitting in front of me. But I don't usually work in that way. So I wonder if maybe when people ask you that, if maybe it's the cards, they're like, well, what is that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, generally usually they're already there.
You use
they
cards. You use cards.
They want to come and they want a reading, but they want to, and not really most of my clients are word of mouth, a lot of them. But there is always that stigma, like the questions here and there. I think more of along the line of just the masses, and that people have the wrong idea about what a psychic does, what a medium does, what and who they are inside, who is leading them. And I will say there are psychics, so-called psychics in the industry that are not natural. They're not. And they give psychics a bad name, so to speak. And I want to like address this elephant in the room.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that unfortunately that is where I think it came from two places. I think it came from the church trying to control it and telling people that's bad, because the church, back when the church was first created, it was come to the priest, come to the reverend, come to the church for whatever you need to, don't go to anyone else.
Let's go back to, the time period. It's, the charlatans. Yeah. Yeah. What's the other thing? It's the charlatans, the people acting like they had some gift. They really didn't. And, tried to sell the snake oil or whatever. That's the other piece. That's where it also came from, was back when people tried to claim they were something that they really weren't. So that is where the skepticism comes from. And also just science. Science in itself is something has to make sense. It has to be black or white for some people. Some people just aren't able to open their mind to that other degree. I think Catholicism, growing up Catholic, we were very much into mysticism, to the saints, to the prophet. So that was all things that I was taught since I could understand and to go to church and knew what was being taught to me, angels, all of that. So for me, it was just a natural draw. My whole life, I always had a natural draw to mysticism, to the unknown, to the dark side, to the mysterious things. My whole life, I've been interested in that. So
we talk about past lives, and some of your work was soul retrieval. Can you talk a little bit about that? I think it's a very interesting topic for people to hear.
Oh, I would love to talk about that. So I believe in past lives just from the work that I do as a as growing up Catholic. That's not something you're taught. So my whole life you were taught you're born and you die and that's it. After I started opening my eyes to when my brother passed, I started learning about past lives. The fact that there is such a thing that we live multiple lifetimes, and each lifetime we come in, we're trying to learn something new and to become a better soul. As I got more and more into studying the last 10 years or so, I started to hear about soul retrieval because my mentor and teacher, Lori, is a shaman. And one of the
Can you explain what a shaman is?
so a shaman would
So I think it's very interesting.
yeah, so a shaman, what's funny is growing up Catholic, I never even heard that word either. I learned that probably in the last, 15 years what a shaman is. So a shaman was always someone who was like the doctor or the healer of a community. So back when we lived in indigenous times, back when we lived in a community, there was always the shaman of the tribe. And so that was the person that you went to when you were sick, when you had any kind of loss, any celebration. The shaman was there. They were the wise one. So learning about shamanism, I also learned about soul retrieval. And soul retrieval is a healing modality that utilizes alternate reality. And alternate reality, you go into meditation. So I, as a practitioner, the soul retriever, go into meditation and enter theta consciousness. So level of consciousness between right after alpha, beta, I think it goes beta, alpha, theta. And theta consciousness is where you're just about asleep, just before you fall asleep, but you're in enough consciousness that you can you can travel to the upper or the lower world over the middle world. Um, as a Catholic, I was taught heaven was, up here, hell was down here, purgatory kind of in the middle. So the upper world in shamanism is kind of like your higher realms, like heaven. The lower world, not hell. I was scared that that was hell. No, the lower world is more mystical, more animals, spirit animals. You a lot of times will, um, I want to say most of my work when I do soul retrieval is in the lower world. What you do is you go into theta consciousness, you travel. A lot of times I'll utilize the tree. I'll travel down the tree, the branches, the roots of the tree go down into the lower world. I usually end up in my power spot, which a lot of times is in a desert with a fire. And we will sit around the fire and do ceremony. My spirit animals will come to me, and my spirit animal is for soul retrieval is a traditional reindeer. So if you picture the reindeer with the big fluffy feet and the big antlers and just very majestic. And so when I first got trained in soul retrieval, this reindeer showed up and I'm like, hi, where are we going? He's like, jump on. So I get on the reindeer's back and we fly. And so what we do, and I know this sounds crazy, but this is real, legitimate, beautiful work just done in an alternate reality, another dimension.
Yeah. Welcome to
And
the spirit world.
yeah. And so we will fly to different lifetimes for that person. And so 90% of my soul retrieval is done with my reindeer. And we will travel to different lifetimes, and usually 2 or 3 lifetimes I will travel to for that particular person. And while I'm doing all of this work in meditation, the client is sitting across from me. They're also in meditation. I just tell them to go to like someplace that's like their power spot or where they feel peace and tranquility. And so while I am going in and retrieving their parts, they're just kind of being present. So I will go in, they'll take me to different lifetimes. I'll go to, you know, I've been to Nazi Germany before. I have been to Thailand. I have been all over places that I don't even know exist, which is amazing and hilarious to me because I'm terrible at geography. And so I will be like, I'll hear Appalachian Mountains in my mind. That's where you're at. And I'm like, okay, where are the Appalachian Mountains again? But then to very beautiful, magical places from all the way before Christ to after Christ to the 1920s to 2000. I've been here, there, and everywhere. So it's fascinating work. I go and I retrieve the soul parts of the parts that were lost from that person. I retrieve them. I put them in a little satchel. My reindeer brings me back. I come back to reality here, and then I utilize a rattle. And I tell the client before just that at the end of the meditation, I'm going to come and blow their soul parts back into them. And so I quite literally will then take the soul parts into my being, and then I blow the soul parts back into their crown chakra, usually their crown and their heart chakra. And so I will blow those parts in. Once those parts are in back, reintegrated into that person in the physical, I then rattle it into their body 3 times using the rattle. And then that seals it. And then I sit back down. I call the client back, and then I tell them what I experienced. And it's usually very emotional for them because I will hit on things that resonates with them. I will hit on things, these aha moments of it makes sense. That's why I've always been afraid of fire, or that's why I've always been afraid of sharks. Um, I'm trying to think of an example of a soul retrieval I did. Okay, I've got one. So I did a soul retrieval for a client. I went in and I was taken to this lifetime, and she was a little girl. She was hiding underneath a bed. She was crying. She was very fearful. And there was all this commotion going on. And there was a man and woman, and they were fighting. And the man was inebriated. He was drunk. He was screaming. And the woman was screaming back. And then there was a physical altercation. The police were called, this little girl. And so it's her as a little girl. And so when she went through that trauma, what happens is parts of the soul break off because it's so traumatic. And what happened was parts of her soul were left underneath that bed back in 1985 when she was a little girl, and her mom and dad had a very tumultuous relationship. He was an alcoholic. He was physically and verbally abusive. And there's her little soul parts. And so me as a practitioner, I go in, I get on my knees under the bed, and I start talking to her little girl. And I said, it's okay. You can come back. It's safe for you to come back. You're a big girl now, and you're a nurse, and you have kids, and you're safe, and you can come back with me. And once I, got her to kind of trust me and convince her, I said, you can have candy now anytime you want. You can buy it. And she loved that. So she's like, all right, let's go. And so she came, and I put her in my little satchel, and we flew back, and I blew the parts back in her. But as I told my client the story of what I saw, I'm very objective when I explain it. There's just tears coming down, and I'm explaining. And it was really hard for her to admit to me. She'd never told anyone that story. And she's like, that was me as a little girl. And I didn't know what it meant at the time. She had to confirm to me that what I had seen. And so she confirmed back to me, yes, my parents were a very tumultuous relationship. There was physical and verbal abuse. The police were called often. I was often underneath that bed. That's where I would hide. And so seeing that healing happening right there in front of me was amazing. So that's an example of how soul retrieval works. And so it's very sacred work. It is something that I never felt worthy of. And spirit kept telling me it's built. I'm like, build it. They're like, we'll let you know when it's time for you to take the class to learn how to do it. And they said, well, you don't really need to learn. You need to remember because you've done that in multiple lifetimes. And so soul retrieval has a lot to do with retrieving parts from past lives, but also the present. what used to happen when we lived in indigenous times, people would go to the shaman when, like I said before, whenever there's a trauma, whenever there was a loss, whenever there was an illness, to get healing. What happened was when we stopped living in tribes, we started living in industrial, the industrial revolution came, we started living in individual families. That kind of healing stopped. We stopped doing soul retrievals. So now we're reincarnated into multiple lifetimes where soul retrieval did not happen. And so there's so much work to be done in that aspect. I could go in for a client 20 times and still have a lot of hearts to retrieve. So it's fascinating work.
I think, and I love that story. I also think when you are a psychic, when you're a psychic intuitive, the entire purpose is healing.
Exactly.
We are under spiritual attack 247, fighting the evil energies, the enemy, and the good, being born to make good decisions or make a bad decision, which is
And
it going to be?
I use a lot of the same verbiage as you do. I just explain it a little different a lot of time. And I think it's interesting how you explain it. It's the same thing. It's just explained differently. So for me, the way I explain it is fear and love. So there's two frequencies in the earth plane, right? It's the same thing you said. You've got
Right.
fear is your lowest, love is your highest. So
And
whatever stops you from the love is what keeps us down.
absolutely. And where I was tying that in is that one of the things you said was that you never felt worthy of it. But having a core of being intuitive and psychic, you already, our gifts continue to develop. And that is like with any gift, you continue to learn more. You continue to develop more gifts in the spiritual world. It's just part of who you are.
Mhm.
And I do think mentioning that, and I think I was talking more personally for myself, that confusion again reigns under fear and even love, because love encompasses so much. But in clearing up all of those things that make you pull you farther away from self-love, pull you farther away from loving people and connecting and trusting, and having patience and positivity. And so having all of those things, a psychic is able to, a good psychic, okay, and a psychic medium is able to just go in and say, let's just yank all this out and let's look at the truth here. And you're right.
Yeah.
Love is always the answer. But how people get there and how they clear out all the garbage and the red tape or the experiences or the poor decisions or even the good decisions that turned out didn't work out for them, all that confusion reigns. And so it's also teaching people how to see clearly and understand. It's like a tool belt. It's like, what are the tools I'm going to put here? What are they that you need? You need this, this, and this. And now you've got the tools.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You've got the tools. And like with the soul retrieval, you're giving them a piece of themselves that was lost. And so
Right.
now we have another tool to use.
So it's empowering. It's empowering people to be their best selves so that they can clear the path of whatever is stopping them from love, whatever is stopping them from living their highest purpose. And that's why we choose to incarnate on the earth plane, because we're one of the only planets, to my level of understanding, we're one of the only planets that has duality, has fear and love as the two things that you have to learn. And so we choose to come here to go through those experiences to become better, to become the best versions of ourselves. And I find this work very sacred, because to be able to help facilitate that for people, that is it's an honor. And trust me, it doesn't make me, I think the other part of it is self-development and facing your own shadow work, facing your own weaknesses or opportunities, like we said earlier, opportunities for improvement. Because how do we show up for other people when we're not our best selves either? So, I'm constantly taking classes, as you know, I'm constantly learning new things. I myself have a very um, impeccable at times, other times opportunities to be better at making sure that I am serving myself spiritually. So whether that is a random Sunday saying, I'm going to go to church today. I haven't been to church. I mean, I'm not a big church goer anymore. I used to be a every Sunday kind of girl. I don't go to church as much, but daily meditation, um, going to psychic mediums myself for guidance, getting readings from you, from Kathy, from friends. I have a great spiritual network. And so getting readings from my community and saying, okay, Heidi, you can work on this, you can work on that. You're not living your best life in this aspect. You're not living your best life in that aspect. So I think to be able to show up for our clients in the best way possible, we have to continue to do that self work on ourselves.
Absolutely. You brought up a great point on divination, and that sometimes using divination can be perceived, what are you using? You're using cards. Didn't we see that in James Bond when he went to the psychic? And there's there's a specific James Bond deck, which was Tarot of the Witches, which is kind of crazy. And it was in the movie. But, people have either they
Never heard of that.
Yeah, they sensationalize it, and I think it's tarot. I will find out, but it is the witch's tarot.
Yeah.
And they either sensationalize it, or they judge it, or question it, or they're curious.
Diet Coke wine glass, just clarifying. Diet Coke.
I just can't help it. I would have put it in a regular cup, but growing up with like Martha Stewart on steroids, you can't put any soda. Anyway, so I will say, going back to divination, for me, when I went to the psychic fair, and here, I'm been practicing, without even knowing it, right? And I saw a deck of cards, and I said, "What's this?" And I said, "Wow, well, it's a way that you can creatively help your symbolism." And in one card in the tarot, I mean, let's take the world, right? And it's the 21. There's 21 trumps, which are called major arcana in the tarot world, and the world is the 21st trump. And these are destiny cards. Your major arcana are going to be like outlining more destiny, where you might have some free will to alter some of the destiny that's coming. But if you take the world, you can see so many different things in that card. For instance, I am an art lover. I'm very creative. So I might see a laurel wreath in that particular deck. And all of a sudden I go into another lifetime that was Napoleonic. Okay. Or I will just get a familiarity, which leads me then to the next path of what I'm seeing and confirming. And so the tool, the tarot, the cards will give you an opportunity to develop that muscle and understand everything that you're seeing, but you still really are reading them the way that you interpret,
Right.
and the way you are seeing. And there are other divination. I will tell you, I will not touch the Ouija.
And I
I
won't either. And
I won't.
that is another topic I think we should talk about at another time.
Yeah.
But
And
I
just
would,
completing that thought with divination is that, the tarot is very helpful. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of different decks. And I'm well studied. And I have to go back to the Catholicism. And this is one thing that happened to me, which is very heartbreaking, because I went all over the world and reading cards, collecting some of the most beautiful tarot decks that you could imagine. And the energy behind and the artwork behind each one. I had a couple of decks that were literally hand done by in Italy. And at one point in 2015, the Catholic Church said, you have to get rid of all of them. You're not going to grow. The enemy is going to be around you for the rest of your life. And guess what happened?
Explain the backstory to that, though. You were married. We're going through a divorce.
Yes.
Trying to save your marriage. He said, you need to get rid of the tarot.
So let me go back. Actually, no, it wasn't actually my husband. Although, yes, you're right. There was so much judgment. I remember having all of these wonderful decks and they're beautiful. And his mom would come over and just pointing and looking at him and pointing and it was just this uncomfortable feeling. And eventually, that was one of the things that I always tried to hide around him. And that wasn't living authentically. And eventually, as I was going through my divorce, and it was quite a bitter one, I thought, well, maybe all of this bad has happened as a result. And I think some of the conversations through the priest was part of those seeds being planted, and also through my ex-husband.
So explain to me then how, I guess I misunderstood that story because I've heard you tell the story before. How did you come upon that you had a priest at your house and you burned them, right? That's what I remember you telling me. So how did that happen? What was
so let me go back. So when I was counseling with the priest quite a bit during that time.
Okay.
Yeah. And so through that, he was aware that I had read cards. As a matter of fact, in the school, because the parish is the same property of the school.
Right.
One of
where our daughters went to Catholic school.
Where our daughters went.
Yeah.
And one of the teachers was fired because of the fact that she was a reader and she was a psychic. And so I think through the years, and I'm not so sure if it was just conversations with my husband and during the Christian counseling that we got, that I had been involved with reading and that I was a psychic. And once we were getting a divorce years later, it came up again in conversation, and I started to question myself. Does that help a little bit? And that conversation was with the priest.
And so that's when he said, you should burn them all.
What do you have to practice these types of things? And I said, hundreds and thousands of books. And it just breaks my heart. So he said, great, we need to burn them all. And he took me to Grosse Pointe Farms Pier Park. And they had these giant barbecues to do parties. And you've seen them, Heidi, because we've been there together. And he put all of this coal in and started a huge fire. And there were I probably had hundreds of boxes. And they were just dumping and burning every single book, every single tarot card I had.
That just breaks my heart. It's like, it just breaks my heart because it's like, shaming you for who you are, shaming our natural born God-given gift of intuition, and shaming artistic creativity and how we show up. It just breaks my heart hearing it.
It is. And Heidi, not only that, as far as I literally became a somewhat of a recluse. I it's like I had a block. And
When you
it was
stop being your authentic self.
exactly, and that is exactly the message here.
That's what it was. I just had an aha moment. I just had an aha moment. That's why you became a recluse, Kathy, because your power of being yourself, who you really were, was taken away. You were ashamed of who you were. You were told you were wrong, and you shut down.
That's
And
right.
the last year and a half, you stepped back into your power. And I've seen such a transformation in you. And it's been so beautiful to watch. And I feel so honored to be part of that, because Kathy and I, as you know, we have been friends for a long time, Kath, but not as close as we have been in the last year. And really, our business started once you started owning who you were again, once you started doing readings again, you bought yourself some cards again, putting yourself out there, working with people. That's when our office manifested itself, which I love that story. We can talk about that. And we went into business together. And even though we work individually, we partner up on so many things. And it's just beautiful. It's just an aha moment for me to like really see that for you, that you have taken your power back and you're showing up the way God wanted you to show up.
Right. I love those aha moments because you always nail it.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll talk about the death of ego because you nailed it. And it was just like, boom, you get that aha. And I love
We do that. We do that for each other all the time. So,
I
and
know.
that's why I find our friendship to be so beautiful. It's because we are always inspiring each other and being that clear channel for each other and saying things to each other that we really need to hear, that, you know, okay, you need to hear this right now. Like, don't hate me for it. Or what's our code word? Oklahoma, if we're going to say.
Oklahoma. Or wait, no, barbecue sauces, don't take it personal. And I don't know why we did that. Barbecue sauce. I have just for the viewers' purpose. We are together a lot and we work together a lot. And we have these little sayings like, if you're interrupting, Oklahoma. And that's like the quiet way and the laughing way of saying, you're interrupting. Or if you take it personal, it's barbecue sauce. It's really good today. And it's like just beautiful. But that's the beauty of loving people unconditionally.
Yes.
And just patience, tolerance, everything, you know, just vibrating on a higher frequency of spirituality and love gives you so much. And you get to really enjoy people above judgment. And it's just, and free from restriction, you know, of what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. And it's unpopular, but it's living authentically. It can be unpopular. And I'm not talking about my clients, of course, or yours. But I am talking about a lot of people that, like us, women, men, that have these abilities and they don't even have the confidence, you know, to use them.
Yeah.
And how do we open that door to teach more people how to tap into their gifts?
Right.
And how to develop that muscle?
And I think we just keep showing up and being who we are. And like we're going to be working on, we have a bunch of stuff that we are collaborating with other intuitives. Our mission is to create more partnerships to reach more people. And so in every partnership you create, you help reach more people and get the word out and encourage people to step into their power. So, and then also teaching, you know, we're going to start teaching some classes at our office, which is going to be amazing.
We already have. I mean, they're packed.
Yeah.
Tell about the sound healing, please.
Yeah, the sound healing that we did, it really organically happened. And again, that was a perfect example of listening to spirit, listening to your guidance. And we had set up our sound healing. We met it was actually a client who'd come in for a reading. And we were like 10 minutes into the reading. And we just started talking about what she does. She's a musician. She specializes in sound healing, crystal bowl sound healing. And I just was fascinated with her work. And I was like, oh, my guides just told me you're supposed to come and do an event here. We're going to do sound healing at the office. What do you think of that? And she's like, I love it. And I go, okay. So from here forward, your reading, this is not a reading. So we're going to meet again. But today they just told me it's going to be a business meeting. I'm sorry. Like, they've hijacked your reading today. This is serving your highest good is what they're telling me. And that day we just decided that we're going to do the sound healing. And you organically had stopped by the office for something. And I'm like, Kathy, you got to come in and meet her and introduce Sarah. And we all just were like, let's do this. So we set up the event as a sound healing event. Everybody
did
showed
it right
up.
then and there. Boom.
Yep. We set it up. 2 weeks later, had our first sound healing. And that night, just as we're about to get started, we've got all of our clients spread out in the office. They're on their yoga mats and their blankets and their eye masks on, and they're all relaxed and getting into it. And we're getting ready to start the sound. And all of a sudden I said, sorry guys, hold on. Spirit just told me that I am supposed to walk around and offer Reiki while we're doing sound healing. Are you guys in for it? Everybody's like, yeah, let's do it. And Kathy's like, I was just told I'm supposed to do energy extraction too at the same time. Are you guys okay with that? Yeah. And so organically happened. And that next 90, well, how many minutes was it? 60 minutes or 45 minutes of crystal bowl sound healing. We had 12 people. I went to each person. Spirit told me where they needed Reiki. I would do Reiki on that part of their body. I got some intuitive guidance on each of them. Then Kathy would go, she would do energy extraction where she was, guided to go. And then at the end, we all shared. And then at that point, Kathy and I were able to share with the clients, okay, they would share their experience. And then we would say, I would say, okay, like the one client she worked with young women, and the message for her that they told me to tell her was to keep doing the work that she's doing, that the woman that she's a teacher, and she's specifically, one of her missions is to encourage young women to, step into their highest power and teach them at a young age to use their voice, and that she's going to continue to show up in that way in this lifetime. And so not only were we able to do sound healing through crystal bowl, but we were able to do hands-on healing. And then at the end, give some intuitive guidance to each person. And so it just kind of morphed from sound healing into like sound healing, hands-on healing. And they love it. The community loves it. We started doing it every 2 weeks. People come, and word of mouth has gotten out. People absolutely love it, enjoy it. We love it, enjoy it. And it's something really unique. You can go to sound healing all over Metro Detroit area, but there's nobody that does it the way we do. And so we created something real specific. And so just continue to show up and say, all right, Spirit, show me what's next. Show me what's next. Just how this podcast manifested. We're like, hey, we should do a podcast. Hey, what should we call it?
Right. And I think, and it was really, it's like, I remember looking at you and I said, and literally almost at the same time, you were like, Spirit's telling me to do Reiki. And I'm like, I need to do energy extraction. It was like, at the same time. And in lieu of that, I think any meditation for anyone, it's self-work, and it's not easy.
No.
But it's more difficult without having a tool like meditation or sound healing, which is a lot of meditation, going into your third eye. How do I get there? I think we all have an idea of where we want to go and what we're supposed to do. And so many people are not living authentically, or they have attachments, or they have those blocks. And we have to help them along in that healing process. It makes sense. I mean, you can't just walk into a gym or a yoga studio and
Yeah.
they say, okay, downward dog and begin, stand up, move to your right. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. And
Sorry,
so
I just got a visual of you and I in yoga class together. It would not, it would
it's
be
just not going to happen. In private, maybe a private instructor might work. I mean, we do work out every night, but no, we have actually, your husband is our trainer. I mean,
Can you imagine us in yoga? I mean, please. I mean, no.
I used to do it. I liked it. I will tell you, it was great for my balance.
No, it's
But
beautiful. It's beautiful work. It's another form of meditation. I'm sorry. I just had a moment. We would be giggling. We'd have to stop. We'd
oh,
have to be separated. Okay.
it's hard.
And let's be honest, yoga brings on, for some reason, I don't know what it is, or maybe it's just a me thing. And I'm going to really kind of embarrass myself for a minute here, but something about yoga, it brings on some gassiness for me. So I get real gassy.
Yeah,
And so
I think a lot of
worry.
people, Heidi. It's being, especially like the big room where it's just so hot and you're just going, I can't breathe because of the smell.
But I'm
Get
just
me
saying,
out of here.
getting in
But
different,
yeah,
different
and then I
positions.
start giggling. I did. I do laugh, and it's hard. And there are, but in regards to it, what what I think is very interesting is that in order for people to get healthy and want to drive them to also physical benefits and practicing better health, you have to clear out all that's blocking you. You know, and some of the clients I have, they can't even perceive how they can at this point apply themselves into a better future, right? And let alone getting up to go to a yoga class. Okay, so again, going back, it's almost like let's look at the right direction, you know. And I think in in all honesty, it's like, to even get to that point, you have to have the help, and that is what energy extraction does, what Reiki does. And it is very, very important to add those that special work to any type of meditation. And then we identify some of the symbolism. We had one girl, and she was literally vibrating. Her entire body had vibrated, and she was phenomenal. She is a cancer survivor, and the fact that she is getting in touch with her body in that manner, and she's often said this, is that she can literally feel her health
Yes.
in an instance.
Yes.
What does she need? What does she have to do? You know, what does she have to feel? When is stress too much? You know, and it is, it's practicing it. It has so many wonderful modalities. I guess you like to use that word, but so many benefits.
Yes. I think one of the number one things that when I do readings for people, one of the number one things that spirit likes to come through to tell them is to meditate and to do, and they're like, I can't meditate. And I said, it doesn't have to be like sitting down and like meditating. That takes a long time to learn. It's a practice like yoga, but there are other forms of meditation. You can walk outdoors. Walking outdoors is one of the most beautiful ways to meditate, that create, connection to nature. For me, that is always my go-to, is to just be outdoors, to ground, to be barefoot in the grass, to be barefoot on the ground, and then to be outdoors and walking in nature, whether it's in our beautiful neighborhood, walking the streets of Grosse Pointe, or it's going to Kensington Park and going on a trail walk, or, if you live out in a forest somewhere, walking out in the forest and going down to the stream and sitting by the water and connecting. Meditation gives us an opportunity to slow down long enough to hear what God or what the universe or what spirit wants to tell us. As you know, I use all those words interchangeably: God, spirit, universe. I use those interchangeably, but prayer is us talking to God. I always explain this way: prayer is us talking to God, meditation is God talking to us, or spirit talking to us and
Absolutely.
inspiring us and guiding us what we need to do to be better, to improve life, to help others, to create heaven on earth. So uh, I feel meditation is a wonderful place to start if you want to become a more spiritual person, if you want to become a better person, if you want to live your life at the highest vibration you can. I think meditation is a great place to start.
And I thank God for creating all of these wonderful opportunities and outlets for people to grow, and giving us the ability and the gifts to be a part of this and to be a part of helping and healing. And I'm just so grateful.
Me too.
And speaking of healing, and one of the things you brought up was your mediumship. And I know we have a special person that we have been dying to interview.
Yes.
And I had the wonderful opportunity to meet him at one of the conferences, which was wonderful. I will let you talk a little bit more about him. I'm not going to say his name. He's a very special guest. So, Heidi, let us know a little bit about Mr. Thompson.
Yes. So our guest today is going to be celebrity spirit medium Rob Thompson. I had the opportunity to meet him through, as you know, one of my best friends, Ed. You guys will hear me talk about Ed a lot on the podcast. He's my brother from another mother. Ed introduced me to Rob. He met Rob at a Paracon event to raise money for dog rescue. And they met and they organically created a wonderful friendship then and there. And one day Ed was telling me, I met this great guy at this thing that you were supposed to go with me to. I was supposed to go with him, but last minute I didn't go. I think there was a snowstorm or something and I had something going on, so I didn't go. And he's like, he's a great guy, and started telling me about him. And he is a spirit medium and he's from England and whatever. And so then maybe a couple weeks later, I'm at work, nurse manager, having the worst day ever. A doctor went off and screamed at me, and I had, a huge schedule and staff called in. It was a terrible day. And I get this text from Ed and he says, "Hey, do you have any interest in ever maybe being a psychic medium on like a TV show?" And I was like, "Yeah, right, whatever. I'm having a day. LOL. Talk to you later." So then that night I get home and he's like, "No, text me. I was serious. Remember that guy I told you about that I met, who I, created an instant connection with? He's got a TV show called The Ghost Finders. And he is looking for people, psychic mediums, to come on his show and to guest. And, would you have any interest?" And I'm like, why would he want me? And I was like, oh my God, shut up, whatever. Of course, being who I am, I think I don't want to say I have a low self-esteem. I just want to say I'm humble. Okay. And so long story short, Ed connected me with Rob and we talked on the phone, and it was an instant connection, instant friendship. And long story short, fast forward, I ended up doing an episode. And we have since done a few episodes on the Ghost Finders as me as the guest. He is I'll let him explain who he is and what he does. But I have met him and his partner, Heather, and they have welcomed me into their world of the Ghost Finder family. And it's been an amazing experience. And so I thought he would be a great first guest for us to have on here because he is one of the people that has encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone and to really show up in my fullest, highest purpose. and being part of this podcast is part of it. And so I thought he'd be a good first guest. So I would love to introduce a very, very special person to me, Rob Thompson.
How do I live up to that introduction? I mean, come on, ladies. What a fantastic.
Hi, Rob. So
great
good to
be
see
here.
you.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Wonderful to
Hi.
be here. Thank you so much for making me your guinea pig. And all the honors that go with it. But yeah, I've got to say, and I've been lurking, behind the scenes, just listening to everything you guys have been saying, and there's so many things that I think are that have resonated with me, that I think are resonating with a lot of people, everyone who's watching this right now. And Kathy, what you were saying, and the irony behind some of the indoctrination you were talking about when you were your childhood, and what happened with the Catholic Church forcing you to, or your local Catholic Church forcing you to burn all of your books, and of course we know. And by the way, warning in advance, I don't watch my P's and Q's. If you are worried about being politically offended or anything, tune off now, because I just don't give
Please let it rip off. Let it rip authentically.
Let
Because
it rip.
that should be our saying. Okay.
I'm politically incorrect with a passion.
Please
and,
do.
And so,
we love that.
I'm glad that, and don't take this the wrong way, I mean, why wouldn't you as a child be forced to take all of your books on any other belief system than the Roman Catholic Church and burn them? Because, well, it's what they're good at, right? I mean, they've had hundreds of years of practice doing exactly that. I mean, let's not talk about the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody talks about the Spanish Inquisition. Or all of the, and it's not exclusive to the RNC either. The Roman Catholic. It's not exclusive either to the Roman Catholic Church. It's who is well, my God is more powerful and real than your God. And
Exactly.
That's right.
And that's why, ironically, half the shit that's going on in the world is going down right now, and all of the misery, suffering, famine, and governmental politics. Okay, that's really causing half or more of the destruction that's going on, and the suffering.
I agree.
And discord.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, if you said it to me in another way, and again, this isn't to say that any of this is exclusive to the Roman Catholic Church, but I would say, well, if there were any mentor that you should burn your books for, I mean, if there's anyone that's in a better position, who would it be than the Roman Catholic Church to preach about morality? But moving on.
Well, and thank you for that acknowledgement, because it was
hypocrisy.
painful.
Yeah, it's bloody hypocrisy is what it is. And I'm sorry, those watching. No, actually, I'm not. Because if there's one thing that bloody pisses me off, it's this whole indoctrination and brainwashing into there is only one religion and it's our religion. One of the things I love about my kids' school, for example, my youngest, is that they embrace all religions. All right,
and that's how it should be.
That's right.
Whether you're Muslim, whether you're Christian, whether Catholic, I mean, Jewish, and I think, honestly, truly, in my heart of hearts, and of course, this is my opinion. I mean, it's my opinion based on facts, on certain things that have happened over the last, 20, 30 years.
I think
it,
I was just going to say, Rob, that I think that, this isn't about Catholic bashing. This isn't about, talking bad about any religion, really. I think it's just an acknowledgement as spiritual individuals. If we as a world could get away from these doctrines, get away from fitting into a box
it's
and look at it
exactly.
holistically.
Yeah. And I wanted to, but in doing so, in using Kathy's experience as a child, being traumatized by the Roman Catholic Church in this way.
And Rob, I was actually a little bit older. So there were
Okay,
two
yeah.
traumas that occurred. I was actually, I want to say in my 40s when they did that.
Oh, well, but I was using that case as a point, as an example, to show the hypocrisy that is, sadly, so much of how the written word is interpreted and preached to the masses. For me, that's not who God is. God isn't this bloke upstairs floating on a cloud, all right, that's got a penis, all right?
Mm-hmm.
He. Well, I know, okay. Outside of the Bible, actually, many religions where there are female gods, okay?
Yes.
You look at how females are, if you look at the empowerment that they have, and at the flapping that goes on and around when someone talks about female empowerment. Oh, no. It's just a bravado of it all, about the absolute ridiculousness of old men banding together and passing laws to decide what women can or can't do with their bodies is equally bloody ridiculous. I sometimes I wake up in the morning and I think I'm in the fucking Handmaid's Tale.
I know.
Especially here in Pennsylvania. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's just like, wait a second, you spoke to her. Well, she's married, They're like, oh my God, you're right. Strike me down. I spoke to a married woman. My God. Well, next time I do, I will say 20 Hail Marys and
Yeah.
come on. Like it's like to the 21st century. We're flying around in space rockets at 65,000 miles an hour.
Right.
Can we evolve a little bit from the dark ages,
And that's what I'm hoping that, and I know, I'm not going to say hoping. That's what I know is going away with this new earth that is available to us.
we'll see what happens in November.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I'll answer that question.
Right. And I think that is our opportunity as a human race, is to step beyond the dogma of religion, step beyond what separates us, and focus on what we have that is the same, because we are all the same.
We are
I
all
am
the
you,
same.
you are me.
If you cut us, and it said in the Bible, do we not bleed? Yes, we do. And we all bleed red. We don't bleed purple or blue. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's the thing that governments enjoy most, is the polarization of a nation. Why? Because it keeps us divided, and
Yes.
that way it keeps us weaker. It keeps them much stronger position. Napoleon once said something along the lines of, which the British kicked his ass, by the way. Sorry, Napoleon, mate.
Well, it wasn't that tall. I mean,
Well, no, and he had a bony part. Nudge, nudge. Oink, oink.
But he had great taste.
But I haven't seen that movie yet, by the way. I love Phoenix, so I'm gonna watch that tonight. But no, Napoleon said, give me a nation that is weak and sick, poor, hungry, and stupid, and I will give you Belgium. No, I know, and I will give you a country that is easily governed, easily manipulated, easily milked like livestock
Yeah.
in a farm. What governments don't want and what religious leaders don't want are people who can think for themselves independently, not go to their little buildings and do their little thing that they do, all of them preaching like lambs by the thousand at the same time, hand on heart. No, they won't. What they don't want is people who can think for themselves, who are capable of critical thinking and of self-examination. People who are healthy, people who are educated. What are some
Yeah.
of the biggest issues in this country? Education, healthcare. We haven't had what in 30 years, 25 years, a minimum wage pay rise, and yet the cost of living has skyrocketed.
Yeah.
So keep people sick, keep people paying through the nose 37, 40, 50, 70 times, uh, paying more, 70 times more in this country for the same drug as they do in Sweden or in the UK, right? Yeah, keep
Right.
people poor, keep them sick, keep them stupid, and you will have a nation that is much easier to run. Why? Because they're too busy. The nation, half the nation, is too busy trying to tread water to keep their head just above water to ask themselves, well, what's the motive behind the government, or why is this happening, or is it really happening that way? Yeah, whether you're left or right. So no, this isn't a pro any political side speech. It's not any kind of a speech. It's just an observance of fact. Is that whatever side of the coin, okay, you're on, right, left or right, it's the same bloody coin.
Yep. Yep.
That's right. And keeping really, I mean, keeping anyone in chaos, right? And whether that chaos is through, obviously a lot of people are experiencing so much financial ruin, financial loss, and other things, confusion, um, no hope for what their future is going to bring. All of the confusion and the chaos that the government can create, it does. It keeps us farther and farther away from our God-given path, from love, from harmony, from unity, um, for humankind. And don't forget the division that you mentioned. I mean, when we're divided, we're busy not trusting each other, not loving each other, not connecting with each other, not learning from each other, not being empowered and learning from everybody, even that part of it's just, this is the enemy speaking. That's the spiritual
Yeah.
attack. Heidi, go ahead, because I can see you got to add here.
I want to add, I am getting a message from spirit, from my spirit guides, as you guys are talking. I started, and both of you are going to love this because I know both of you love the Beatles, and there's a song that just came in my head, John Lennon, Imagine.
Oh, I love it.
One of my favorite songs of all time. That is what we need to strive to create on this earth plane. Us as spiritual beings who can see what divides us, who can see what separates us. The government really.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's a song that's that was written 45 years ago by someone who was blown away by a complete nutcase. And his thing, his assassin's, whole thing was, because it was kind of ironic because he was a kind of a fan, but he was an obsessive. But he believed that John was talking the talk and not walking the walk. On the one hand, this is his assassin's point of view, not mine, was that and there is a little bit of a point in it, but it's not in the mind of a madman.
Right.
John's talking about, it doesn't matter if you have a yacht, or you have 10 Rolls Royces, or or you find a private jet, or if you walk on, or you take the bus down the bloody road, you know, um, and yet has mansions and has a yacht and has a private plane and has so he's living a billionaire lifestyle and preaching about material things really don't matter. Um, so I get it. I mean, I get that, but and maybe that's the case, and maybe you can still do those things. It doesn't mean to say that you can preach that material things don't matter and you have to live a life of squalor. I mean,
Yeah.
there's an in between. I mean, you have to be Gandhi,
Yeah.
taking it to
Right.
the extreme.
And I feel that just in this, Rob, this is such a great subject because I always felt like the material, the ability for me to create some material, wonderful abundance around me was how I expressed myself within. And I think that's a reflection of how you're serving and how you're expressing the beauty within. And it's just manifesting around you in the
Yeah.
material world, but it doesn't define you. And that is exactly what I think that you're saying, is that
Yeah.
it's that people are allowing materialism and all
Yes.
of their toys and this to define them
Yes.
instead of their spiritual purpose, love,
Yeah.
things that are concrete
It's
in
filling
who
a
they
void.
are as the person. And that's where we lose the message.
That's a good point. That defining, as long as it doesn't define you, you can have abundance. There's nothing wrong with abundance. Abundance is a result of uplifting other people and showing love and living your best life and being a good person and putting effort into life. That is what abundance is. But I think that's the key. I think that hit the nail on the head, is to not let it define who you are.
And
Love-
I really, to be perfectly honest, I lived for most of my life a life of it was hardship and it was duality. I became locked in survival mode, like a cornered cheetah. And I think I lost my way by doing that for too long, that it became me. I became that mode. And then when I was rescued from that after many years of just being programmed into the wrong kind of thinking, um, exacerbated by being in the wrong circles of people, that I had to relearn love, and do what has been really years and years of shadow work. And I think sometimes with the best of intentions, you can find yourself in a situation where you're like, that upon reflection, probably wasn't the best way to handle that. And now, you know, you're going to be judged. Whatever you do, you're going to be judged. But in your heart of hearts, if you know that your intention was honorable and it remains honorable, and you are true to yourself, then truly, as long as that's what you're projecting, that's really all that matters.
Yeah.
Not the hateful chatter of people who've never met you or met you and they think they know you, or any of the nonsense that people will dream up, because it'll always be there. It's not gonna just go away. All right.
Yeah.
Then just keep on living with that intention, with the right intention, and I think that that love will always win. I think love always wins through. Um, you can't shine darkness into light. You can only shine light into darkness.
That turning point for you, Rob, where you said, I really had to teach myself how to love, which is, it had to be insurmountable, especially when, I mean, there's all of these dark detours that we have to choose in life. And, you know, in many ways to be more loving, you have to see the dark before you can see the light.
Oh yeah.
And it is important. Not that you have to go through some of the, you know, horrible lessons with it, but I also, it reminded me of, you know, a poem that was found, and I adopted the saying of the title of the poem, called "The Hounds of Heaven." And if you believe enough, the light will hound you, and it will hound you. Spirit, God, Jesus will hound you to a higher vibration. And not everybody's always ready. Not everybody can always do it. And that is part of this world. That's part of this world. It's part of what we do.
Yeah.
I like what you said, Rob, about, you know, living from that place of survival, like a caged cheetah. Like, I like that expression. It resonates with me deeply when you explain that. But it made me think, I think everybody has something that, you know, when they're doing shadow work, it's being aware of it, it's identifying it, but like, how do we get it? How do we get that part of us to die so that it doesn't keep showing up? Because no matter how much work we seem to do in some areas, it's like, okay, I think I finally get it now. I think I finally accomplished it. And then all of a sudden one day you're having a bad day or something happens or whatever. And then it comes back. And it's like, I think it's just being aware that it's there and then acknowledging it, welcoming it, embracing it, and saying, oh, you're here again. Okay. All right. I see you. I acknowledge you. But what you're telling me isn't true. And then just moving forward. And I think that's the biggest part of it, is just knowing that it's not, I mean, hopefully one day it'll die, but it just keeps coming up because it's part of us. And so not pretending it's not there, not lying to ourselves if it isn't there, but saying, okay, I know it's there. Hi, welcome back, but you're lying, you know, and then owning it.
Well,
Yeah.
we have to be a guardian of our own thoughts.
Right.
We have to be our own soldier. We really do. And we're sadly mistaken if we're not understanding that we still have to guard. Nobody is gonna no. There's no spirit that's gonna come through and do that for you. I mean, the
Right.
spirit is gonna guide you, but we have to be the guardians.
We're the you know, the choir, the altar boys, and the congregation, okay, at the church of Saint Facebook and Saint Media generally. And so we eat it, we breathe it, we sleep it, we drink it. We can't get enough of it, whether we want to admit that or not. Okay, your face is stuck in that thing. Okay, way
Oh,
too much.
yeah.
And I think that that's one of the things that I've started to and here's the thing, it's a very, very tough one to separate yourself from, especially if your career is an essential part of that. Like, for
Yeah.
example, like Heidi and I, you know, working in the media, and yourself, having you know, worked in the media advertising for so many years. It's almost like saying, well, you know, I'm allergic to paint, so I'm not going to paint anymore. So
Yeah.
but then you're like, that's like cutting your fingers off. That's like an artist cutting your fingers off. That's like what that uh that church did to you by making you burn all of
Oh,
your books.
I know.
It was alleviating a threat not to you but to itself, to it,
Right.
by making you relieve by and seeing and feeling what you were and are now to this day around you. And by doing that, of course, you're paying less attention to the church. So it's a big threat. And the more influence that you get, the more of a threat you are, and the more you'll be criticized by the other powers that be. You can
Mhm.
bet your bottom dollar. Doesn't matter who
Yeah.
you are or what you do. If you're putting yourself out there, it's it's a very brave thing to do. That's why I didn't
It is.
come out as a medium until I was this 6, 7 years ago, and that was because, and I, the Ghost Finders has been out for 12 years. This is our 12th season, and I get asked a lot, how come you had guest mediums, before that? And that's because I was terrified. I was just, no way. There's one thing coming out to your little circle, but I was terrified of. And then a friend of mine, God rest his soul, Derek Acora from Most Haunted, and Derek Acora's Ghost Towns and many other shows in the UK, a television psychic medium, and said to me, he was just like, Rob, you put your big boy pants on, all right? If you're worried about what people think, well, you're in the wrong business to start with, whether you're a medium or a presenter or what, And I thought, yeah, that's kind of a good point. Um, so it was just like, I wish I could tell you there's an easy way. Just do it, cringe at yourself, do it some more, cringe some more, but learn how to. It's not just about getting out there and doing it, and that's the mistake I made. I think for the first, certainly first couple of years that I started doing exhibiting that on the Ghost Finders, because I was like a bull in a china shop. I didn't know any. I know nothing about this gift, how to develop this gift, how to shield, how to all the different aspects that are so important for protection, for so many or reasons. And I went to a lady called Diet Renee, who is a mediumship master teacher, and she just changed my life. Literally changed my life in the space of a year.
How?
Well, she taught me to define and confront my gift and treat it as just that. And to she taught me by throwing me in the deep end, that I could do this, and not just for me or for a TV audience, but for the greater good, for other people, to connect spirit, to give spirit closure, to give people closure. And when I was just like, yeah, I'm almost ready to, she was like, no, yeah. Oh, by the way, you're on tomorrow. You got a gallery. There's 12 of us, and you're going to be on the Zoom. And I'm like, well, but what? And she's like, okay, all right, you'll be great. Bye. You know, and I'm like, you know, and that was it. It was like, you've heard of these terrible people throwing a baby, in a pool, and then but it was a sink or swim moment, and she
Yeah.
kept on doing it, and she's just like,
Yeah.
you're doing great. You look at you, look at you, and I was just like, yeah, well, that's. And then at first I was just like, well, that's a fluke, that's just that came into my head, that came into my that was just a bit of stroke of luck, And then she
Mhm.
was like, "It's stroke of luck that you got the name and you got this," and then yeah.
Yeah.
No, honey.
Yeah, no.
And I was, and then I started to believe this incredible thing that happened. I started to believe in my ability, and my God, I it changed everything. Changed my life, and it changed my whole perception of really everything, every aspect of life, not just the metaphysical aspect. Uh, and so for that, I'll be forever in her debt. And she's such a delicate, sensitive plant. She's such a wonderful being.
Yeah. I
So
don't know her. I want to meet her. I'm friends with her on Facebook, and I follow her, and I watch some of her
yes,
stuff on
well,
different things. Amazing. Another person that we could probably have on the show too, Kathy.
well,
Oh,
absolutely. Look,
but I
look
want Rob to be a regular now. I'm loving this. I am loving. Will you please become a
I've
regular, Rob, with
we've
this?
we've talked at this, and talked, different settings, like in person, the three of us. But I just think that these type of podcasts are a forum where we can, make people think, oh, bloody Nora, well, that's me. Well, that's me. Like,
Right.
yeah, and because that's how it was for me. It was Derek, and God bless you, Derek. And I feel him every time I get
Yeah.
up on stage on gallery, whether I'm doing gallery with whoever it's with, you, my darling,
Yeah.
or Patty Negri, or whoever I'm up on stage with. I'm really crapping myself, or if I'm on my own, I feel Derek there, and he's just like, "Go on,
Yeah.
just go on."
He's there. He's
Yeah,
there. And I've had the honor to connect you with him a couple times.
yeah.
And my first gallery read was with Rob. Rob invited me last fall to do my first gallery read, and it was an amazing experience. But I just have to say, like, you are an amazing spirit medium, Rob. And, I've had the honor of having a reading from you. And I've referred a lot of my loved ones to you for readings, close family and friends. And, you know, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like being our best selves and seeing that. So, and the other thing that I absolutely love is that you are a man. There's not a lot of men in, spirit
So I
mediums, and
am.
I love that. I love it.
I do too. And
Thank
that
you.
is just, it's just, that's inspiring.
It
Well,
And
is.
it's going to be really helpful for people to see, oh my gosh, I've been like this. And as a man, I can't tap into this. I mean, there's a big stereotype, right? And we all know what that is. And all of a sudden, it's just a fabulous example.
Well, and I think that's what's special about you too, Rob, is I've seen you interact with other men when you give readings or how you show up, they look to you like as a good example because there aren't a lot of male examples. So I think that's a really special niche that you are able to offer that, Derek, you were able to learn from him, and now you can do that for other men too. And so I think that's really, really special. Like just the other day, I was saying, I really want my son to get a reading from you because I think he's going to take it in a totally different way than he would from another woman. But to hear it from a male perspective, I think that's really special and really
well,
unique.
sometimes, if someone's not as close to you, you're more open with them. It's not about you can't read for someone who's close to you, um, but yeah, I know that that's the case, very much the case with me, and it's difficult because as a readee, it's a whole gamut of different people that come to me. Someone will be like, "It's my first reading," and I don't know what to expect, and okay, whether it be a Zoom reading I'm giving at spiritmedium.com, uh, or it's in person at an event, um, and some of them will sit there and they'll sit down, they'll bring like a friend to their side, whatever, and the arms get folded. Mm-hmm. All right,
Yeah.
let's hear it. I'm like, we can. How about we start over, and then we sit down with an open perspective, without those
Yeah.
shields up, without those testing stations all lined up, ready to pop, because we can sit here for 45 minutes and I get paid either way. No problem.
Yeah.
You want to sit here and throw test questions at me and put a
Right.
front up where spirit can't get to you, and where neither of you can be helped or be connected,
Right.
that's a bit of a waste. But so why don't we try that again?
Right.
And she sat down, and she's watching. She's going to be like, oh my god, he's talking about me, but I didn't name names. And she was just like, okay, sorry about. And I'm like, that's not a part of the equation. My ego isn't part of it here.
Right.
So let's talk about. And I said the name, and she went and looked at her friend like this, and her friend was just like, oh,
Chills. Yeah.
and she was like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no more of the sorry. Okay, look, you guys just want to get together, and this isn't your first try at it, is it? She was like, I've done like 20 readings in the last 3 years. And I'm like, well, sometimes it's just on the individual. It's just about you connect more with one person than you do another, or perhaps it's just bad timing, or it's the people.
Or perhaps it was because you said you're blocking me, and she was aware of it, and we're able to open her up.
Yeah, because spirit was like, oh my God, talk to her, will you please? And I'm like, sure. And she was like, just tell her my name. And I was like, okay.
So I have an interesting question that I just thought of. I would say 90% of my clients are female, 10% are male. I'm curious for you and for Kathy too. What would you say is your ratio?
99.
Female.
99% female. Yeah.
Damn it. How do we break that? I was hoping you were going to say like 20s, 80 or whatever.
I would say 95% of my clients are female.
So how do we get to them?
I would say what's really interesting is a lot of my male clients over the years have been politically connected.
Meaning?
Senators, lawyers, most of the male clients I've had.
Really? Okay. Okay. Interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think honestly, part of that, a big part of that, in my opinion, is that men, I think it's the testosterone thing, that men are sort of less open to be, okay, I think it's vulnerability. I think honestly, to open yourself up to spirit, you have to make yourself open, and to make yourself open, you're going to feel vulnerable, and that's not a groovy feeling for anyone. But the more macho you have, the more, no matter who you are, what you look like, you don't have to be Jason bloody Momoa. All right, you're gonna be further removed from doing that with ease than you are as a woman.
I think what I was thinking was the same thing, the same wavelength as you. So if you think about it, female energy receives. So, and when we are doing our work, we are giving, right? So the females are more comfortable receiving as females, as the female energy we receive, and male energy is more giving. So I think that has something to do with it too, that for men, not all men are good at receiving. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not speaking sexual. I'm just speaking energetically. I think that's part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be vulnerable.
We Yeah, we feel that we can't be vulnerable because we need to be strong, and that the two are in some way. Some people feel that they are mutually exclusive, and it's not. No, you can be both. You can be, in fact, ironically, the stronger you are emotionally and spiritually, the easier you are open up to yourself. And
Absolutely.
yeah. So I honestly, trust me, I've seen muscle men, sat down here, like, I'm
Mhm.
a big bloke, but that have like been like sort of like, "Ooh." And they crush walnuts, in between their biceps and stuff. And
Right.
and I've seen them be like reduced to tears in 2 minutes from
Yeah.
the connection, and cry like a baby, and it's beautiful, and they set me off. In fact, I often get set
Yeah.
off by how can you not? It's such a moving experience. And I think more or less degree, just about everyone I read for becomes a member of sort of a circle of member of your family. You impart, you have this experience. How can they not?
Yeah.
That's so personal, that's so
Mhm.
uh, so energetic, that's so um, that flows three ways. And I mean, so how can it not mean that to you? So sometimes it's my readings will go over, by 10:50. I've
Oh,
got
boy.
either been like,
Yeah.
and
It's
I don't
like
like
that
to be,
too.
Mine are
yeah, I
like
don't
an
like to be a
hour
clock
over.
watcher. I'm not a clock watcher. I'd much rather, if I don't have another reading next, I don't care. I'll keep on going because it's a beautiful experience.
It is.
It really is.
It is.
Last night I had just a wonderful, I have a lot of teen clients. Um, Even one that's 13, and I tend to go over and over and over. Yesterday I went 2 hours. I don't even care. But when you're in that momentum and spirit is guiding you, it's very tough to just stop, right then and there.
Hmm.
And sometimes you have to. Sometimes I have clients that are like, I don't care if we go 5 hours, whatever the bill is, it's fine. I mean, but for me, it's just, I just feel like it's like a doctor who's going to operate. I mean, you're not just going to see something that could affect what you're doing right now and ignore it and say, well, we got to schedule another surgery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I think energetically for me, I had to learn early on to really try to structure my reads. If I'm doing an hour, I try to really stick to that hour. And I usually am like, I'll go like up to 15 minutes over, but I usually am pretty much complete by that time. And I think that took for me a lot of practice and patience to get to that point, because for me, energetically, it would drain me. I did get to the point where I felt drained. So for me, it just helped to kind of bunch all of it up and then push it forward in that way. But I mean, it's not like I'm not willing to go over for my clients. I do, but I just felt like for me, I guess it was the way I learned to. My teacher really taught that to me. My teacher Lori was to just really try to stick to the time, because energetically, what you put out, the energy you put out, and the energy that comes back to you needs to be equal. So that's why your pricing is super important. Your time is very important, and we're givers, so it's natural. Like I hear both of you saying, oh, but I love to do it, I love to do it, and that's the beautiful part of it. Yes, we love to do it, but we also have to protect our energy, because it does take a lot of energy to do it. And so the more that we can preserve that energy to live our best life, whether it's for another reading afterwards or another reading later that day, or to be able to show up to our kids' soccer game or show up to the PTA meeting, whatever that may be, we have not over exceeded our energy. So to me, it's more of an energetic thing. And that, if I'm sitting with somebody for 3 hours and I'm charging them, say, $200 for an hour, if I end up reading for 3 hours, that's $600. It's not a money thing, but it's an energetic thing. So thinking of it in a different way.
Well,
Um,
I mean, if that happens, Heidi, I want you to know, I will take one for the team. You can send them over and say, you know what I think would be better would be if you do the next 2 hours several sessions with my friend Rob, who's
yeah.
and no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's well, so and I was talking with I'm not going to name drop because it's cheesy, but I was talking with a very well-known uh, celebrity psychic medium the other day, and they said, I've my schedule set up, you know, that it's you. Well, for two reasons. Number one, luckily, I'm blessed to have a 3 month ahead booking, schedule solid, but I also don't want to see people back, for a month at a time, and because sometimes, people become dependent and reliant
Yes.
on you because of it's a very special it's a very, very special high. It's a very incredible feeling when you are able to find the right medium for you to connect with spirit, and the right medium for them as well, of course. um but I think it's also, um people are, and I think for the most part understand that, your time is time away from your family,
Right.
and doing other things. And so, I get that a lot, and I admire uh, people who are able to do readings from 8 in the morning to 6, 7 o'clock at night. I'm not one of them. I
I've
just
seen you do it. I've seen you do it at events. You've done it. I mean,
uh,
when we do events, when we go to like
Oh yeah.
paracasts, psychic things, we do it all day long, but we can't do that all day, every day. It
no,
is time.
actually, I think, yeah, no, I think my record, I think I'm like, I think I'd run out of the building screaming like a little girl, if I realized it. But a couple of events, I think of one we did 35 readings
Oh my gosh.
in
Wow.
night, which sounds like a lot, but over 9 hours, it's not, too bad. But I slept for like 3 days. I'm
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
like, you're
Yeah, you
driving
have to
home.
recharge.
You're
Yeah,
It's
giving it everything. Yeah.
but
especially with events.
but
And
that's
and we have literally, started an event at 4 o'clock, and we're packing up at 2 in the morning. And
Yeah.
it's just, you have to really consider the amount of work that you do. It is laborious. And you have to charge accordingly. Um, but a lot of it also, I mean, for clients, it's a lot of it is therapy.
Yes.
it is.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and it's, well, so, and that's the thing. It's therapeutic to them, but it's therapy both ways. It's here
Oh,
and
absolutely.
up in the ether,
Yeah.
I get just as much out of it as they do.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Where spirit is exacting a certain energy, and is like, please, I'm asking your forgiveness because I I don't know, because I shouldn't have said the things I did, shouldn't have done the things I did. This is why, although it doesn't matter now, it happened. But I want you to know, whether you accept it or not, that I do deeply, regret those times. And
When you say times, meaning.
things, maybe they weren't the perfect parent, or they weren't the perfect boss, or partner, lover, whatever. Um, and forgiveness is sometimes just not possible. It takes a lot out of someone that's already had a lot taken from them. But to have, at least from the ethereal world, the note of acceptance that they were wrong, and if they could take it back, that they would. And those two words, I'm sorry, to hear that from spirit, to be able to channel that from spirit. I'm often sat here and I'm not even realizing it in a situation like that, and I bawling my eyes out, and
Same.
it's just coming down. And, it's them,
Well,
they're crying through me.
Yes.
And
that is unbelievable you touched on this today. Um, Yesterday, particularly, I had a client that was absolutely beyond destroyed. Lost his mom during the same time that he was partnering with a business with another family member. This very close family member ended up betraying him. And I cannot tell you the devastation. And it has been literally a 2-year devastation and blockage. And part of that blockage was exactly what you said, forgiveness. Because he was staying in the hurt, the anger, the confusion, the self punishment that he wasn't listening to his intuition when he felt the whole time this could be, not a good thing, self judgment. And really, what spirit led me to is, I'm really sorry to say this, and I know you hate this person, but spirit is telling me you need to forgive, and you need to forgive right now. And it was just, no way. I mean, that's just not the answer. And I said, it is the answer. And sometimes spirit doesn't give you a tangible look at something. All you need is to make more money. You're going to make more money. That's not always what happens. You go to and you get a reading, and you think you're going to be told your life's going to be better. You're going to get married. You're going to do this, or, you're tuning into a family member or whatever. And sometimes it is very much about learning a valuable lesson so that you can reconcile with love, because we talked about in the beginning that love is everything. And you have to love yourself, you have to love people, and you have to forgive people. And forgiveness is huge in our world.
it is. If you carry hate around with you, the person you're destroying is yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's eating away at you. And whether you have it pushed back under the rug as far as you can possibly get it, it's always going to be there, and it's always going to come out now and then, and you're going to carry it, and you can't begin to heal until you are able to truly forgive, even if it's only if it's on a smaller level.
That's right. The start.
It's
just the
a
start.
start. Yeah, and that's of course, and the irony of that is that of course you're the hate that you carry for what happened to you as maybe as a child or as a spouse or a brother or sister, whatever your situation is, that caused that. That you're projecting because of that, you're holding on to that. It's changed who you are and how
Yeah.
you project yourself. And
Right.
and it's easy to say, well, no, it doesn't. I just put that in the past. It's in the past. No, it's there. It's there, and people will pick up on it. You might tell
Yeah.
yourself that that's not the case, but sometimes we really have to face a lot of demons to be able to to be able to let go that hate and reach out and forgiveness on even a minor level, and then and only then we can start to heal.
Agree.
A lot of times what I'll do with my clients is I will say, I want you to do me a favor. I mean, we've talked a lot about everything this person has done to you. And legitimate, you have every reason to feel and to never forgive them. However, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to think about every horrible thing. I want you to think about the hate and the anger right now. And I do it. And then I say, now close your eyes and think about love. Think about, go back before this happened and loving that person and feeling happy and abundant. What feels better
Yeah.
in your body? What
Yes.
vibration feels better? There's no other answer.
Yeah.
Which do you want to choose? And
Yeah.
it's that simple. And a lot of times it's also taking what you're seeing and helping them to not only by identifying your future, which is it. I always see unity. I always see reconciliation. I just do. And I think that's what God wants. Love wants reconciliation and unity. And sometimes those exercises, I don't know how that exercise happened. It was just like all of a sudden Spirit said, do this exercise for this person.
It's a beautiful.
And there are so many things that come up and you just say, and I say, Spirit, how can I get this message so that they can get to what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
And Spirit tells me do this. And I have all of these little techniques that just kind of come to me.
Yeah.
And I love it. And so you're right. And when you say just the step towards forgiveness, and this client that I had yesterday that I was speaking of literally looked at me and said, that was so hard when I have literally become a killer inside and out in my feelings.
He let the hate take him over. Exactly. Exactly. And a
You
lot of
feel like
times I will clients too, I will say, be gentle with yourself. They're
Yes.
asking for forgiveness. You don't have to forgive them right this second, but they're asking for it. And
In your
be
heart.
gentle with yourself and allow it to organically come. It might not happen right now while we're in session. You might need some time to process it, but just to have that acknowledgement, just to have those words be said, and giving them permission and giving them that room to just be gentle with themselves and not judge it. But I love that exercise. That's really special. Really
And
special.
when people do, it's funny, isn't it? When people, you feel the switch going off.
Oh yeah, it's
And
just like boom.
yeah, and then they there's usually this like boom, like fire hydrant of tears, and
And love.
emotion, and that's all been building up, and love, and because it's taken away they've taken away their ability to love themselves. So hate just spreading through like branches of a tree. And once that's gone, once the forgiveness is out there, um, like I said, on it, whatever level, because of course that will build, they realize that this massive load, this massive bucket of pus that they've been carrying around, festering with them day in, day out, is gone. The pressure is gone, and it's that that healing process. Once that starts, they start. They it's almost like they go overboard, and they're like which is impossible. Over love,
Yes.
But yeah, it's just then I want everything to be about in my life to be about love from here on in, because wow, I wasted 8 years or 18 or 30 years hating, and the only person that I was hurting was myself, those around
Exactly.
me, my loved ones, by carrying it.
Exactly.
It's a burden that you just don't need to carry.
And it's a lie.
It
It's
is.
a lie.
It is.
I
Yeah.
mean, you attach yourself to
The story
it's
type.
not our natural being. Spirit is love. Spirit is it's forgiveness, and it's like you're lying to yourself if you want to stay in this hate, because there's nothing that builds from hate.
Yep.
In the words of John Lennon.
Yes.
Love
Is that what he said? See,
No,
now
he
I
said,
know why.
he said, "Love is all you need."
That's right.
And
Yep.
that's true. It's well,
Awesome.
yeah, it's good if you can pay the bills, but yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think this I want to thank both of you so much for coming into my life, and you touched my life in so many different ways, and I love you both so much. Um,
Aw.
and
Thank
Love you. Love you.
I love
and
you too.
for having me be your first guest, and that
So honored.
thank you.
So honored. And you you might want to prepare yourself. We might be wanting you to be like our guest more.
Or maybe
Well,
not guess,
Because you're so
maybe.
special. This is
well,
special. This is very special.
yeah, I'm like I said, I'm honored, and I just I can't thank you enough, and you are truly amazing people that are extraordinarily gifted, and it's just a fantastic journey that we're all on together,
Yep.
and it's always a pleasure. I'm going to be doing a few events this year, less than I did last year, because I'm writing a book. My book comes out in late August.
Yay! Oh, I can't wait to
There's stuff
tell your book. I want everyone to hear about it.
Well, that's why I'll be doing a few less events, because we're busy working on on that. It's now in the sort of draft stage. So um, yeah, that'll be August. So I'm looking forward to being actually at an event, not just as a psychic medium, but as an author.
Yay!
Yeah, yeah.
So fabulous.
But a lot of people have inspired me over the years that are great authors and philosophers and alike. People like Mike Ricksecker, and Sam Baltrusis, Dan Klass. A lot of people who have really embraced the whole phenomenon and what it is that we do, going through that spiritual metaphysical rabbit hole and putting that into writing. So yeah, first we'll see how it goes, but that's out in August. And so all right, well, thank you, ladies, and
Thank you. Look
luck.
forward to seeing you soon, Rob. Thank you so much.
God bless.
God bless. Thanks. I think I'm excited about, forgiveness was a huge part of our conversation. And I love that. I hope that we can break that segment down, so that we can have forgiveness. And I really can't wait to talk about something that, remember the aha moment of the death of my ego.
Yeah.
Hey, how many people? And you were like, wait, your ego died. And I'm like, is that what happened? Yes, that's what happened. And it was so true. And this is so huge. And being able to really just tap into how loving you can be to yourself and to people. And so I can't wait till we actually talk about that in one of our other shows. So I just want to say today was great. Today was amazing. I feel so uplifted. I hope all of our viewers today got the same thing out of it. Kathy, thank you for showing up and for agreeing to do this. And thank you, Rob, for being our guest. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Kathy, do you have any last words to say today? No, I just want to thank everyone. And I'm so excited. I'm so glad that we decided to put this together. I just want to mention that next time we have to tell everybody what Scorpio Rising, how we did it, and how we came to develop that name. And so I can just tell everybody I look forward
to some of the shows that we are going to uh, produce. One of them is Death of the Ego, and also Angel Encounters. And I'm looking forward to having a special guest who is very special in talking a little bit about something that happened to her, and much more to come. So Heidi, thank you too for being with me on this journey, and I love you.
I love you, and I can't wait to see where this takes us. So
Thanks.
thanks, guys. See you next time. Bye.